Adults invented the technologies. Adults are the stockholders and corporations that profit from the technologies. Adults control when their kids get access to the technologies at home and at school. Adults decide what kind of conversations to have or not have with their kids to help them deal with social media. Adults decide how much to talk to kids about healthy and unhealthy relationships. More about that in a minute. And adults engage in a lot of the same problematic behaviors that kids do. And adults point their fingers at kids and say, what's wrong with these kids? So that's my rant. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about bad apps. What are the two big players? There's really three. Instagram, Snapchat, and then at various times different texting apps, right? Different kinds of texting apps. That's the big old chunk of the market. So we spend a lot of time obsessing about the latest app, and none of those seem to have legs in the same way that Instagram and Snapchat have. So we can spend a lot of time sort of chasing that tail, but I'm not really sure that's what this is all about. We focus probably too much on the technology and not enough about conversations about how to treat people and about our values. I think we've been and I've been a part of that. I've been done 90-minute talks on the bad apps, and now I'm thinking, is that really what this is all about? I'm not sure it is. Now, that said, Josh Oakes, who was here recently, right? Josh Oakes, I communicate with. Josh Oakes communicates with everybody. And Josh Oakes' website is extremely helpful, smartsocial.com. He keeps a maintained list of all the different apps, what's going on. He has these 5, 6, 7-minute YouTube. I don't have any money in Josh Oakes. It's just I'll use it all the time. Because if there's a new app, in fact, I emailed Josh today and I said, what do you know about Visbo, VSBO? He said, don't have that one yet. And I felt like that was a triumph. Josh Oakes didn't know. I found out one for Josh Oakes. Tremendously good. And then, of course, the other one we talk about all the time around here is Common Sense Media. The website's very, very helpful, very reliable, been around a long time, great source of information. Here's the short version of what makes an app bad. What makes an app bad is the ability to use it anonymously, because that also means you can use it without accountability. And there are lots of apps out that you can use without putting in your identifying information or your email address or your phone number or whatever. This is part of the problem, of course, is that we're giving this trend's been going on forever, younger and younger kids getting more and more sophisticated devices. As I've been saying for a long time, we've been doing that, all of us, without thinking through the implications. And I think that's probably catching up with us, and has been for some time. I have come to believe that the best reading of the research on youth and social media is that no child should have a smartphone before they're in about the 8th grade. I think that's, and for those of you who've already given your 4th graders smartphones, it's okay. But I think that data is piling up and getting harder and harder to ignore. So I always ask people to consider holding out. I'll go ahead and do my standard bit on this at the risk you've heard it. Mom, I'm the last kid in the 4th grade not to have an iPhone. And my attitude about my suggestion is, I don't care. B, that's probably not true. And C, somebody's got to be the last kid in the 4th grade to have an iPhone. Builds character. That's going to be you. Also just know, and I don't endorse any products because I don't know how to scam them for money, but there are lots of interesting products that are coming out now, and this is an example of one. I just learned about it a couple weeks ago. GABE, G-A-B-B, is a phone that looks like a smartphone. It's not humiliating like a Motorola flip phone. But it only does, you can't see this, so I'll read it. It only does phone calls. Remember that technology? Phone calls, texting, it has a calendar, it has an alarm, it has a calculator, it has a camera. It has no internet access. So strictly the cell phone networks, you can't load apps into it. Looks like a smartphone, probably not as embarrassing, but it's hobbled. So it's a transition phone. And there's lots of products like that. There's one called the Light Phone, L-I-G-H-T, has a screen that almost looks like a Kindle, and it has very limited functionality. You can make phone calls, you can text, you can do some of the essential things. They're really essential, but you can't do naughty stuff. It's harder to do naughty stuff, I should say. Just a quick word on this. I'm just checking to see how far, but I'm all right, actually. I feel strongly about this. Just to be blunt, because we're short of time, it's just a mistake to let kids sleep with their devices. Take a look at the data here. 90% of teenagers say they sleep with their phones in their rooms. By the way, how many of you sleep with your phones in your rooms? That's a different thing for adults. I get that. But again, it's kind of amazing how many of the behaviors we are modeling for our kids that we do. Sleep with phones in their rooms. 62% say they use their cell phones after bedtime. 57% use them while in bed. 21% said they wake up in when text comes in. All teenagers are sleep deprived. All of them. So how do I know that? I don't even know your teenagers, because we've known for 40 years how much sleep teenagers need for their nervous systems to operate fully. About 9 hours and 15 minutes a night on average. And as I always say, who knows a Mountain Brook teenager gets 9 hours and 15 minutes of sleep a night during the school year? They don't. So they're chronically sleep deprived, showing up at the high school at 6 o'clock in the morning for some activities or whatever it is, and it's a huge problem. And nobody has an easy answer for this, but teenagers are sleep deprived. And so this adds to sleep deprivation. Now, this data say kids wake up, but consider, you got your cell phone on, you're 14, you got your cell phone under your pillow or next to your bed, and so maybe during the night it goes, how many texts you get during the night or notifications, bzz, and maybe you do wake up long enough to check it and kind of go back under. But consider this, maybe you don't really wake up, but you got a thing buzzing under your pillow all night. Probably kind of raises up the level of sleep, and disrupts your sleep, even though you never really wake up. So it's just bluntly, it's just a bad idea. Take up all the devices at bedtime and charge them in your room. It's one way people handle that sometimes. Hey, why do you need to sleep with your cell phone? And boys says, well, it's my alarm clock. And never mind, you can buy an alarm clock at Rite Aid, not Rite Aid, but CVS for about $12, right? I got to have it to wake up. But what he's really thinking is, I got to make sure I don't miss out on all the stuff that's going on, right? It's because the digital world has totally created a obligation to be available at all times. It's a fear of missing out, right? That's what he's thinking. He's just saying it's about his alarm clock. And he's not lying when he says this. He believes this. And he's got reason to believe it, right? Because so much of this is moved online. Talked earlier about the laboratory. A lot of the laboratories moved online, which means there are no chaperones. There's no supervision. So you got this very sketchy process of trying to shift relationships and get along with each other with no adults looking out, with predictable problematic outcomes, right? If you think about it. So there's a problem to do that because it feeds the addictive process to have your phone during the night, and it also contributes to sleep deprivation. I've shown this. This is a birthday cake, iPhone birthday cake. Happy birthday, here's your iPhone. And as I said before, the problem with giving iPhones as a gift is it communicates that it is theirs to use and abuse as they wish. So I oppose to that practice of saying happy birthday, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, here's your iPhone, because it does convey. If Dickie, when my birthday comes up, it's in March 25th, Dickie comes by my office and says, Dale, here's happy birthday, here's a fountain pen. I like fountain pens. Dickie has conveyed ownership of that pen to me by saying, happy birthday, here's your pen. He doesn't call me 3 weeks later and says, hey, Dale, are you making responsible use of that pen I gave you? That would be weird, even for Dickie. I'm sorry. So anyway, I could say more about that. We don't have time. This is an extremely powerful thing. So powerful that this can backfire on parents. And here's how it backfires. You think you're doing the right thing. You'd be forgiven. I'd think the same thing. Probably did back when I was raising kids. I'm going to give you this phone, but if you mess up, you do something bad, I am on you. I'm going to take it. You will not see it again until you graduate from Auburn. It's good. You go really. What you then do are feeding into that fear that you'll take it away and they'll miss out. And what that kind of harsh, draconian attitude does is it drives them underground. Then it becomes about concealing it from you rather than trying to do the right thing. So probably better for all of us to say, Don't abuse this. Here's what it means to abuse it. You have to be explicit about it, right? And if there's a problem, I want you to come to me. If you come to me, we're going to try to work it through. I'm not going to tell you I won't punish you, but we're going to work it through. But if I find out that you're up to no good and we're not talking about it, then there's going to be trouble. Something like that, so that they don't necessarily think that you're going to take away their connections to their peers, even though they are at school all day. It still feels like they're being disconnected.